In Fight Club, David Fincher explores the effects of a capitalist society. No. Boon Jong, Bong Joon-ho's Parasite and David Fincher's Fight Club, through strikingly different films, all accentuate issues in class structure and class representation through the use of mise-en-scène, theme, and the rebellious nature of forgotten lower class. These films use these elements to rebel against and call for an upheaval of the oppressive socio-economic forces that control class structure. Class consciousness and false consciousness become central issues within these films as they violently search for representation of the lower class while making an effort to critique upper class capitalistic values. Class in each of these films is represented in a rather patterned way. It's interesting that within three very different films that such patterns would arise to portray difference in class. The lower class, in particular, is depicted in such a way that the viewer feels as if to look down upon these characters just as the capitalist system does. The way that these films do this speaks to the way that these films work to make a statement about class representation. The most prominent pattern that arises in these films is that of basements, the underground, and stairs. Stairs provide important transitions between the two extremes of space and relationships, which is used in film to make a visual example of the two extremes of upper and lower class. The lower class seems to be more often than not portrayed in relation to being hidden and lower than the rest of society. In Parasite, we meet a poor family of four eating a modest dinner and drinking beer in their cramped basement apartment, which in turn makes the viewer immediately associate this family with the underground and the poor. It is obvious in these opening scenes with the Kims that they are set lower than the rest of society. Parasite is split between a favoured above-ground world and a brutal subterranean realm, which is laid out in an extremely visual way. Upon meeting the wealthy Park family, Kim Ki-woo has to walk up a number of stairs before actually entering the beautiful, intricate home of the Parks. This sets up the visual distinction of the above-ground world of wealth and the subterranean realm of poverty and struggle. This same distinction is drawn in Fight Club. The main character and narrator of the film is introduced in a sad, monotonous world. Unlike Parasite, he isn't presented immediately as below society, but rather a part of it. He has a nice apartment and nice things, but these things define him and in a sense control him. But these things don't make him happy. It isn't until his apartment blows up along with all of his belongings that the nature of his character changes. He isn't able to connect to his material possessions anymore. Here the narrator is lost and then finds himself separated from society. This ends his domestic life in an instant and leads to the narrator moving in with Tyler Durden in a rundown wild house far from civilization. It is in this house that the line between wealth and poverty comes into play. The house is visually unattractive, in complete opposition to the narrator's apartment. It's dilapidated and disgusting, but serves this character and his counterpart well. Along with division from society, the basement also comes into play in this film. As the members of the Fight Club grow, they begin to meet in one basement. In this way, these former law-abiding members of society choose a life underground, opposite of a world of wealth. Whilst the two films take place in the distant cultures of Korea and America, Parasite and Fight Club both explore the same great lie of capitalism, class mobility. In Parasite, the Kims attempt to leave the social class they were born into by technically dishonest means, forging their credentials to be employed by the Parks family. In the closing minutes of the film, Ki-woo discovers his father is trapped in the same basement Gun-se was trapped in for years. Ki-woo boldly vows to work hard and earn enough money to one day buy the house his father is trapped in, so that he may be freed. The film temporarily allows the audience to believe that these vows will be fulfilled in the future, before alluding that these visions of Ki-woo's success are merely daydreams. This storytelling technique encourages the audience to evaluate Ki-woo's future. What are the chances he is successful? And the damning critique of capitalism lies in the eventual realization that no, Ki-woo will never be able to purchase that house. The truth of class mobility is that the differentiating factor between classes in a capitalist society is not hard work. It is often anything but. The age-old adage of pull yourself up by your bootstraps and put your head down and work are nothing more than a fiction used to justify the inequity of the social order. Throughout the film, the Parks are portrayed as naive and unremarkable in their intellect, whilst the Kims are clever, cunning, and ingenious at every turn of the road, elaborately ensnaring the lives of the two families. This is in stark contrast to the traditional concept of class divisions, the idea that those in high classes are in such a position due to their intelligence. Fight Club explores the same idea, but in the specific context of American culture. The American Dream is a term coined in the 1931 book, Epic of America. The American Dream is the belief that anyone, regardless of where they were born or what class they were born into, can attain their own version of success in a society in which upward mobility is possible for everyone. This is to a large extent the same idea explored in Parasite, although this concept is not explicitly named in Korean culture. Tyler Durden vocalizes the unfair nature of the class system in a monologue to the Fight Club. I see all this potential and I see squandering. This is directly in contrast to the American Dream, which suggests that the determining factor of success should be purely one's potential. We've all been raised on television to believe that one day we'd all be millionaires and movie gods and rock stars, but we won't. Here Durden highlights the portrayal of the American Dream in media, leaving the lower classes to believe that same lie, that if one works hard enough, success is inevitable. Although the two films seemingly portray similar anti-capitalist messages, the two films disagree on core Marxist principles. Fight Club suggests that those on the less fortunate side of capitalism will band together to overthrow the social order that oppressed them, almost a word-for-word recreation of the Communist Manifesto. Throughout the film, Tyler Durden acts as a metaphor for Karl Marx, spreading ideas into the minds of the proletariat. There are several references to Marxism throughout the film. The narrator describes Mr. Boss with his midlife spread and family photo on his desk, and his dreams about early retirement and winters spent at a trailer park hookup in some Arizona desert. The narrator references Joe's blood-boiling rage, angered by the gap between his and his boss's lifestyle he will likely never close. Everyday people are often referred to as an average Joe in American culture. By referring to his anger as the anger of Joe, the director extends this rage to the entirety of the American proletariat, united in their anger towards the bourgeoisie, the inevitable conflicts between the haves and have-nots. Later in the film, Durden establishes the tie between the proletariat and the bourgeoisie as he monologues to the Seattle police commissioner. We're everyone you depend on. We're the people who do your laundry and cook your food and serve your dinner. We make your bed. We guard you while you're asleep. We drive the ambulances. We direct your call. We are cooks and drivers and we know everything about you. We process your insurance claims and credit card charges. We control every part of your life. This highlights the Marxist principle of the bourgeoisie benefiting from the fruits of the proletariat's labor, and as such their dependence on the proletariat. Another element of Marxist theory is the process of reification, the commodification of humans, described as inevitable. Supposedly an inevitability of capitalism, the bourgeoisie start to view members of the proletariat as statistics, as objects rather than humans. This happens throughout Fight Club. Parasite, on the other hand, disagrees with core Marxist principles. Throughout the film, the Kims are only concerned with their own welfare. They don't vocalize any criticisms for the system they are living in, only their wish to achieve upwards mobility. A key moment in the film is when the Kims are given the opportunity to assist who Marx would have referred to as their comrades, the old housekeeper and her husband. It would have taken minimal effort to support the housekeeper's husband, but the Kims refused to help them, not willing to be distracted in their plan for upwards mobility. Throughout the film, the Kims sacrifice many members of their own class for their own success. In order to gain the jobs they do, they must first replace those who already have the jobs. This is the cause of their eventual downfall, as fights amongst the proletariat only ruin the small success they had managed to achieve.